here for part of their time. 3 kids have graduated from Co-Brown, and we're very pleased with this community, very pleased with what has provided our kids. I mentioned that I've also been involved in a number of community activities. I was a Cub Master and Scout Master for a long time, and was also a soccer coach and spent a lot of time with high school girls. In particular, I coached the school team here for 2 years, the girls team here at the middle school. I've been involved in other public service sorts of jobs, executive committee of the YMCA in Rochester and in Manchester, and served on the executive committee in the Capital Area Public Health Network, and other such projects like that. I did conclude my work in Pittsfield in August, and I'm not currently working in public education, which just worked out so beautifully because in August our son and his family moved in, and now I get to hang out and enjoy little kids as well as some additional adult company at home. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have or suggestions you might have, and leave it to you.
Great, thank you. If anybody wants to ask a question, you can just come up to the microphone or call out a question, and tell us your name.
Strafford. I was just curious, interested in your background and your history with the school funding, because that's been a hot topic here in the past couple of years, as with everywhere. So I was curious, like, what some strategies you think, because you are obviously familiar with our school, that we could endorse that are not currently being endorsed to bridge the tax gap versus resources in the school. Because personally, I feel the balance between getting our kids to Co-Brown and the tuition that it requires, and that goes up every year. We've continuously kind of had to trim our school, the K-8 budget, and it's really, I think, becoming a little apparent now as the staff has mentioned, we can't find that balance in the middle school because we've kind of allocated the resources there, and the resources in the lower grades. And so what are some creative strategies? I know they got really creative this year with the middle school to try to balance those resources. And I just don't know how much more creative we can get. That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
So, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. It is a problem at the state level. And I think despite the good intentions of local communities such as ours or Pittsfield's or any other communities, we're not going to fix it at this level. And unfortunately, it really pits communities in this battle with each other. I can't speak so much for Strafford, but I can tell you in Pittsfield, it's really become quite ugly because the schools then become the target, and the schools suffer because of it, and the students suffer because of it. In Pittsfield, for example, in the 10-year period of 2008 to 2018, the Pittsfield school budget increased 3.5% over a 10-year period. Now, the inflation rate during that same period is 14%. So we didn't even keep up with inflation. And so what did we do? We did what the only thing you can do is to trim resources. And by resources, we're talking about resources for kids in the classroom, obvious things like field trips and athletics and those sorts of things. But we've also had to eliminate positions. And it's very, very, to me, it's tragic, and it's immoral, and it's illegal what's happening in the school districts in the state, particularly the poor school districts, such as Pittsfield. I know that Strafford's equalized valuation per pupil is below the state average, so kids in Strafford are suffering because of and taxpayers in Strafford are suffering because of this unfair system that our state is insisting on sticking with, and ignoring Supreme Court rulings to take care of it. So there is no easy answer. There is no good answer. And I'm sure the administrators here in Strafford and the school boards here in Strafford have done their best to be frugal. I'm a big fan of frugal. And so I think that's really where, unfortunately, where our small towns are at in New Hampshire right now. And there is no magic bullet except waiting for a fix from the state level. It's very unfortunate. And so you see in schools like Strafford, you see the struggles your board goes through when they're talking about a program that's increased from $800 to $2,500. All right, in the whole big scheme of things, that's not a whole lot of money. But the fact is, in a small town, in a small school, in a small school district, that does turn out to be a lot of money. And so people in small schools like this, small districts and poor school districts, have to look at every single expenditure, have to look at every resource possible. And so it's a tough fight. It's a tough battle to fight, but it is a problem that the state needs to address if they want to fix it, if this is to be fixed. And so my suggestion is that we talk with our state legislators, our members of legislature and state senate. And I have had the conversation with folks who represented Pittsfield and quite frankly didn't get very far. But that's really where the problem is with the state level right now. And school districts like Strafford's and like Pittsfield's, I think most people are well-intended in doing what they can, but you know, there's only so much you can pull you know, out of a town in terms of tax fairness. I wish I had a better answer.
Is this thing, Eric Owens on hello,
Hi, Eric, how are you?
how you doing?
Good.
So 3.5% over 10 years is what you mentioned in Pittsfield. Is Pittsfield a SB2 town?
Yes,
Or
it is.
It is?
It is.
How realistic is that? That 3.5%, I guess that sounds like a lot of cutting.
It's a huge amount of cutting. Over that 10-year period, the enrollment decline, Pittsfield didn't have the enrollment decline that many school districts had. Pittsfield's enrollment decline over the 10-year period averaged just 3 students per year. And the reason for that in Pittsfield is that there are a lot of rental units. And so people are able to move in and bring kids in and are able to, and so the enrollment has stayed relatively stable over that 10-year period of time. At the same time, over that 10-year period, we've had to cut at least 1 teacher per year. So 3 kids, 1 teacher, doesn't make much sense. We were not able to do it. And so as a result, by last year, the high school kids taking foreign language had to take it, what's the name of that yellow box kind of? Rosetta Stone. They took their foreign language by Rosetta Stone. We eliminated positions. We eliminated a lot of support for students. And it's, you know, cut down the superintendent's hours from full-time to part-time. You know, we did just about everything we could think of.
I don't think that's realistic, by the way. I'm probably a big advocate for reducing spending, but that sounds impossible, and I would not like to see that here.
It's gone too far. You know, the other long-term thing that people don't realize very often is that the salary structure in Pittsfield is so uncompetitive that we're not able to maintain our faculty. And so, for example, over a 2-year period, we lost our entire middle grades faculty. And what do you think happened to our test scores during those 2 years and immediately after? Well, they went down. What do you expect? New people, it takes a while for folks, teachers, particularly new teachers who we primarily hired in Pittsfield to get their feet under them. Some of the research says it takes 5 to 8 years for a teacher to really get good at his or her profession. And people would leave us, and we had a teacher a couple of years ago, excellent 6th grade teacher, went from Pittsfield to Epsom and got a $20,000 increase, 50% increase. Now, you know, the salary structure here is not as dire as that in Strafford, excuse me, as that in Pittsfield, but we just couldn't continue on the school development and school improvement work that we have been doing and expect the kind of results that we were hoping for and that we achieved in the early days as we had to keep taking away and taking away and taking away. It's very sad.
Right, well, sounds like you're familiar with that sort of challenge, and hopefully Strafford can turn the corner as far as everybody coming together, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Hi, my name is Jessica Grant. I'm a officer in Strafford. I have two girls at the school currently. And my question is, I think part of the role of the superintendent is to think about a vision and a long-range plan. And I've been saying for a while now that I think the demographic of this town is changing. I'm sure you see that when you live here too. I think there's a lot of houses being built. I think there's a lot of new families moving in. And I think that's been an added struggle for trying to deal with our budget and, be cognizant that there's that potential to have that growth, but also be aware that budget is not too much money in your current setting. So I'm curious what your thoughts are for kind of thinking long range and having a change, how you might help that.
What we did in Pittsfield is we looked for a model for school development and for student success. And there are a lot of those sorts of models out there. One that we liked and we ended up using for a number of years, actually we've been using since probably about 2010, is called a student success ladder. And so there are sort of nine steps of this step ladder. And very often, school districts will try improvements and try strategies that are sort of at the top of the ladder, the high level stuff, because we see them as impacting kids really quickly and really directly without having the support underneath. And so things like the community's vision for the schools and the proper systems and protocols that are in place, the proper and updated school board policies that support the vision all need to be in place as we go up to the higher levels of this ladder, which is student success, which is really at the top level. It's personalizing education to the greatest degree you can for each individual student. That's at the top. That's the gold standards. Down at the bottom five rungs are very critical elements as well. So the bottom rung has to do with leadership, has to do with vision and mission, a proper atmosphere, support for school board in their work. A second level up would be policies. So what are the policies and procedures based on the vision and mission? What are those policies going to do that help us to get from that vision to reality at the top of the ladder? The third level has to do with management. So what systems are in place, again, in alignment with the vision and mission to allow us to reach that high level? The fifth ladder, I'm just going to skip up. The fifth step of that ladder is community understanding. And so it would be important for a community to come together and have an understanding and support for school, but an understanding of what the school is trying to achieve, support for those sorts of goals, the transition team, I spoke with the school board. What I said was, again, I don't want to bring my experience and expect to recreate it in another school district. That would be so unfair and so wrong-headed if I were to do such a thing. I also suggested that I would take the first 3 months of my tenure here to learn about the system. One of the 4 factors that I would be concerned about, it would be an orientation to the system and the district. And so I have gone online and looked at the most recent teacher contract available and paraprofessional contract available. I've seen that. I've looked at some historical financial data. I've looked at sort of attendance rates and student achievement rates over a 10-year period. So I have looked at those sorts of things, but I have not looked at everything. I haven't looked at transportation contracts, for one thing, or curriculum. But it seems as though if I were to come and serve as your superintendent during the first 3 months, that would give me time to take a look at, be oriented to the organization, take a look at documents. A second aspect of that orientation period, of that 3-month period, would have an understanding of stakeholder viewpoints. And so I would necessarily need to be speaking with school board members and paraprofessionals and teachers and parents and non-parent citizens and community leaders about their perspective of the school and what they see, what you see as needs. A third aspect would be to try to understand and be able to articulate what the culture of the school is. And the culture of the school, not only within the school, but the school within the community. And so it would be during that first 3-month period where I would be spending as much time as I could learning about those sorts of things that you're talking about, and then presumably come to the school board with and the public with my thoughts on what I've observed, and have the opportunity to have people tell me that I'm seeing things right or seeing things wrong, and then to develop, not me, but a group, a community group ideally, that would include teachers and paraprofessionals, of course, in developing a plan moving forward from there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Might be time to wrap it up. It's very quiet over there.
All right, well, thank you for this opportunity, and I hope you have a chance to talk more about the school and to hear your thoughts about where the school has been, where we are now, and then where we're headed. 3 important aspects, I think, of understanding a school and school community and understanding the needs and priorities of the school. Again, I think it's important to have a model and have a framework, and I'd be happy to share that with the board as soon as possible, and look at how we might use that framework to develop a long-term plan for the school. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're done with our public session here this night. We're going to move into non-public at this point, so we need a motion for that. So you should stay. I'm sorry.